Hi, everyone. Welcome to Postcards from Opera Fayetteville. I'm Cris Frisco, the music director of Opera Fayetteville, and I'm here in conversation today with David Radamés Toro, who was the director for our recent production of Glory Denied. Hi, David. Where are you coming from?
I'm coming from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for being with us this spring. And I just wanted to ask you a bit about contemporary opera. How is contemporary opera different for you than maybe approaching one of the standard rep operas?
So, the contemporary issues of modern opera. It's based, a lot of them are trying to face issues that are 20th and 21st century. Not to say that classical opera don't approach those. I mean, many of them do have universal concepts, but just something new, something different.
Well, and actually, that sort of leads me to something else I was hoping you would talk about, because most of our audience never gets to see the process and never really gets to see the stage director in action because your work is sort of um completed by the time the audience enters the equation, or at least the active part of it is. So, can you talk to us a little bit about what directing an opera looks like? I mean, what is your process?
Well, every director kind of has their different approach. There's always, of course, the listening phase where you listen to it two or three times, trying to see. I like to think of what images just pop into my head, whether they make sense or not, what images, what colors, what textures, and what movements. My background is in physical theater as well as voice, and so I always like to think, where is my body going with this musical gesture, with this word. Um, and again, whether it's literal, what I'm actually going to do, it just starts to get my creative thoughts moving. Then I like to do, honestly, I am nerdy in the fact that I like to do analysis. And so I will do a couple different type of script analysis, whatever I need. One I call that's a trigger analysis. So what action propels the action forward throughout the entire opera, and then going back and say, okay, if I'm missing spots, what filled in there? And if I didn't get them directly from the text or from the music, like what actions can I see that in my logical sense or my storytelling sense propel that action to move forward? And it gets really helpful with like arias, which sometimes can become stagnant because it's arias take a moment to dig into the idea of a thought, a feeling, an emotion. Um, but if that aria is 8 minutes long, how do we keep it moving forward, compelling the action forward in the story, as well as taking a moment to reflect on what you're feeling or what you're thinking? Um, and it gets down to the nitty gritty, but it forces you to think about what is the essence of this scene. And once I get that, everything seems to fall back into place. Um, and also, there's always just, I like to go to the music sometimes. I know that's cliche, that's every opera director does. Like, we go to the
Well,
music.
it is a lot of music. Yeah.
It is a lot of music. And I like to think of the musical grammar. Just like the text has a grammar, commas, periods, punctuation, all of that changes the interpretation of it, with the expectation of where a melodic line goes or a rhythmic pattern, and when that expectation is not met, what is that saying? That might be subtext to the singer, or even maybe it's not known to the singer, but it's supposed to be emotion or environment that's implied for the audience to understand. So, and how all that comes together to kind of fulfill the storytelling process. So I like to spend time on analysis.
Sure, and actually, I mean, one of the things that you brought up is something I've been thinking a lot about, because I mean, I think we can agree that 2020 has been sort of a crazy year for our industry. And one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is like, what does opera still have to say to us in this new world? Like in 2020, why is opera still relevant? Which I think is a great question to pose to you.
I am a firm believer that opera is the art of the people. Even going back to the Baroque period, when you have like the Venetian operas, they didn't have a lord to please, so they made opera for the people. uh, After the monarchy started to fall out of favor, like in France, when we started getting to the republics, it's opera for the people. Sure, the bourgeoisie still went there to be seen, and people didn't really pay attention, and they played cards and made out and everything, but it's still a public gathering performance where people can see something, a topic that's relevant. All of the classic opera, and especially the 20th, 21st century opera, have things to say about the existence, about our existence, about how we function in society.
No, well, because I mean, we are in a world that's changing a lot, and I know even in the industry, there's a lot of conversation about how do we change. Um, so, like, what changes would you like to see in opera as we move forward, or how does opera stay relevant as we move forward?
inclusivity is the buzzword right now, but it's true. And we need to see representation on stage, but we also need to see representation in administration and artistic and production. But I can tell you, like, from my standpoint, when I'm saying representation, as it appeals to me, when I started to switch into directing, I did not have many mentors or even really examples of Latinos, and especially Latino Americans in opera, in directing, or even in administration. People ask me, who are your mentors? And I think, or, did you have any Latinx mentors or examples to lead? And it's like, in opera, no, I can't think of any. People would point me toward like Spaniards, but that's a European tradition. That's not a Latin American tradition, or even a point of view.
Well, and it's something, I mean, it's something we certainly think a lot about at Opera Fayetteville because when we decided that our mission was going to be American opera and contemporary American opera, it sort of begs the question then, like, what is contemporary America? Which is a big sort of collage of a lot of different life experiences, a lot of points of view, certainly a diverse set of voices that are not one ethnicity or one socioeconomic class or one generation. And it's something we wrestle with a lot, especially moving forward, is that we want to make sure that we're choosing projects that represent kind of the whole, the entirety of the American experience, not just this one.
Right. And not only as we move forward and we do show, basically, we show more diverse examples in the opera world, and especially in the 20th, 21st century repertoire, that the communities that are traditionally underrepresented in opera are not always represented as communities of tragedy. Because I think there needs to be a broader spectrum of how, again, these underrepresented communities are presented in opera. I think, like, going to, I worked on El Pasado Nunca Se Termina at Fort Worth Opera, and what I loved about that experience, the representation, both on stage, backstage, everything like that, but also it was a story about Mexicans and Mexican Americans that did not necessarily rely on tragedy as an immigrant to propel the story forward. Right. It was all about heritage, and it moved me. I cried like every rehearsal because this was joyous. These were people learning about their history and their culture that didn't rely on some stereotype of tragedy in order to tell a story. And I think that as more stories get told, that needs to be included.
Sure. So it's a diversity not only of who gets to tell the story, but a diversity of those stories that are being told too.
Right.
And thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk with us today. It was great to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yes, please.
Take care.
Bye.